Welcome to Intersections Season 2, Episode 2. Today's guest is Taylor Alarcon, and he is a man of many talents, but the primary thing that you might know him for are the founder of Blacklist New York and also getting his PhD at Columbia for Sociology. We're both from Chicago, originally grew up there and now live in New York, and it's been fun getting to know him and kind of share some similar communities and vibes and experiences moving here. But today we're going to talk to him all about his experience, growing up, moving here, starting Blacklist, what the heck is sociology and more. And so, yeah, really just excited to get started. Taylor, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Tay. Twin.
Tourist twin. Okay, so to start, we're just going to get into it. I'm just going to ask you some interesting questions and feel free to just kind of ramble. So the first question I want to ask you is, you are half Black and half Filipino. Tell me about that experience growing up and how it has kind of influenced your perspective.
For sure. Thanks for having me, Tay.
Yeah, shout out to the camera boy.
Yeah, born and raised in Chicago, half Black, half Filipino. Just growing up biracial, I think you see different parts of the city. I grew up in a Filipino household, so spent a lot of time in and out of Asian communities in Chicago. So Filipino markets, Filipino restaurants, Chinatown in Chicago. I don't know if y'all been, but it's busting. But then also obviously going to the South Side, hooping, visiting family. You just get to see different parts of the city, my city being Chicago. So I think growing up biracial, you're just exposed to different worlds, different cuisines, different music, which ultimately just influences your worldview, I think, for the better. You're more accepting of different types of people. Your interests grow and they diversify, and it allows you to relate to different types of people as well. So I think I'm very proud. Also, Black culture and Filipino culture are both very loud, which I appreciate. Very loud and proud. So I navigate the world and through the world as a Black man, but I'll always be proud of my Filipino heritage as well.
I think it's interesting too because you grew up in a white community predominantly.
Yeah, where I went to high school.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that experience too.
Yeah.
Holding so many different spaces.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago is just notoriously one of the most segregated cities in the U.S., historically one of the most segregated cities in the U.S. So I lived downtown at one point, lived in Jefferson Park, which has changed since we lived there. It was predominantly Polish when I was there. Now I think it's pretty nice. I remember talking to somebody else from Chicago that y'all had introduced me to, who said he bought a place in Jefferson Park. But then I went to high school in the North Shore, which is over 90% white. I think it just contributes again to people's ability to conversate, get to know and relate to different types of people, which, as we know, is a valuable life skill.
Yeah.
So I'll always appreciate having lived in different neighborhoods in Chicago, lived in different cities across the U.S., and sharing culture and ethnicity and nationality with so many different types of people, and therefore interests and background and history. Even though maybe it was a bit more difficult in a place like the North Shore, but I also remember moving there and learning so much about just success, right? Because there's so much wealth in the North Shore, and there's this story that my mom loves to tell where I went to my best friend's house in 5th grade, and he lived across the street from Lake Michigan. And he had this massive house. And I literally walked in and I said, how much was this place? My mom was like, we don't ask people how much their houses are. That's actually rude. But yeah, and then I come to find out his dad's some sort of financial advisor in downtown Chicago. His mom's a lawyer, and learning about success and what it means to, quote unquote escape, Chicago.
Yeah.
So I think that's all contributed to just, my views on, which we'll eventually talk about, inequality.
Yeah.
Right? Racial inequality, economic inequality, the contributing factors, ways to address it. and just thinking about like different people's life paths based on where they started.
And then, you know, it's kind of interesting because you're talking about like success and being exposed to that. You then went to an Ivy League.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience. I feel like, first of all, congrats on getting there.
Thanks. Yeah. Shout out track and field. No, just kidding. Yeah, I was recruited. Obviously, you have to like still meet a threshold to get into the school, but I was recruited for track and field. I went to college at Brown, ran all 4 years.
What events?
I was long jump and triple jump, and a little bit of high jump.
Can you still jump far and high?
I don't know. You have to ask my knees. I think they will say no. But, yeah, I did track all 4 years in college. Really enjoy Brown. I think if you ask anyone who went to Brown, it's a very, they call it like the hippie Ivy. They call it like, we claim that we're a little bit more chill than the like Princetons and Harvards of the Ivy League. Yeah, we used to engage in recreational activity on the main green.
Like what? Frisbee?
Yeah, frisbee, Quidditch, stuff like that.
Quidditch, definitely an Ivy League.
Yeah, we used to play Quidditch on the main green. And yeah, I mean, Brown has this like no requirements curriculum where basically, what do they call it? They call it the open curriculum, where there's no gen eds. Like you just pull up and you like take classes that you want.
Oh, cool.
Once you declare a major, you have to like fulfill requirements for the major.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Brown, as much as it was an Ivy League experience, was also very much like an eye-opening experience for me because it's a very progressive, similar to like the stereotype of UC Berkeley type of place.
Well, and you ended up joining a fraternity there and meeting like a lot of your friends that you're still friends with. Yeah. Talk about what made you do that, like want to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Similar to what we were talking about before with navigating different worlds growing up, whether it's, my dad's family on the south side of Chicago, my mom's Filipino family, or like my white friends on the North Shore. I think I was on this journey of self-discovery, and there was a fraternity that started at Brown my freshman year. I joined my sophomore year, but it's the first Black fraternity to hold residential space on an Ivy League campus.
Oh, no way. Cool.
Yeah, started by my brothers Andrew Gonzalez, Cedric Kwakamansa, give a little shout out,
Hey.
and Ahmed Al-Said. They're all a year above me, but they started this organization focused on education and social service, and just started recruiting dudes on campus. And I was close with a few of them at the time. Obviously got closer with time. But I was just really sold on the mission of connecting through brotherhood and social service, and also getting out of the athlete community a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and also continuing to discover my Blackness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And going to a pretty white high school, and then going to a place like Brown, which was similarly affluent, similarly elite, but way more diverse.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like a good way to, like be with my people, like for real. Yeah.
Do you feel like everyone, or other people at least in your fraternity, had a similar experience to you growing up, or was it kind of all different backgrounds? And
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there was definitely diversity within the fraternity in terms of background, where people came from, like big city versus small town, for instance. I also think, I think a lot of people who joined the fraternity had a similar mission or similar interests in creating community, uplifting and supporting other Black people, particularly other Black men, especially at a place like Brown. So yeah, I think people had similar backgrounds and motivations, even if their life stories were divergent for whatever reason.
it's cool because I feel like this has kind of become a common thread in your life.
I think so.
Maybe not intentionally, but where now you're kind of applying some of that to what you're doing now with Blacklist, which we will get into more. But I want to talk a little bit more about before you came to New York. After leaving Brown, you then went out to the Bay Area and you worked in tech for a while. What was that experience like?
Yeah. So I graduated from Brown. got a job in tech, moved to the Bay Area, was living in San Francisco, working in San Francisco, sometimes going down to San Jose, which for those that know the Bay Area is just like the heart of Silicon Valley. And I mean, it was great. I mean, I was making money for the first time. That's how I started DJing, which we'll also talk about at some point. I was able to afford a DJ deck. The Bay Area is cool. I mean, love California. Growing up, in college, people thought I was from California. I guess, like, I give off the Cali vibe.
Yeah, you give off like chill energy. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I always appreciated it. But yeah, just going to like national parks and obviously the beach. But the beach in the Bay is like, it's okay. But yeah, just like enjoying the West Coast for real. But what was interesting about San Francisco and Oakland in particular is the inequality, the poverty, and the drug use out there.
Right.
And obviously gentrification is a big thing in Brooklyn, it's a big thing in the Bay, it's a big thing in a lot of places. Homelessness is obviously a thing in California. And I was fascinated by the simultaneous coexistence of so much poverty and drug use.
Right.
And like so much, like millions of dollars in economic activity in Silicon Valley.
Right.
And like these two things coexisting, and it felt like all of the money was being hoarded in one and not being distributed or supporting or even acknowledging the other.
Right.
And that juxtaposition, that coexistence, honestly is what I talked about in my grad school application. I was like, I'm living in San Francisco, I'm making a lot of money, but I'm also like, I am involved in communicating and interacting with these communities that are like on the street, like quite literally on the street. Why is there so much money here and support here and no money and no support here?
When I haven't gotten to spend too much time there, but like I think even the difference between San Francisco proper and then like even like Oakland, right? It's just crossing a bridge, but just the whole dynamic is different. I guess we kind of see that in New York, but I feel like people just don't even venture out out to Oakland when you're visiting or like whatever. And I think that's definitely an interesting like dynamic because it's all technically the Bay Area.
For sure, yeah. I mean, San Francisco, and they have different histories too, right? Yeah, Oakland. Love Oakland, that's where I started DJing, that's where I spent most of my time. It's more diverse than San Francisco, generally speaking. But yeah, it's really, and the problems are actually different, quote unquote problems. The phenomena that you observe out there can be different depending on where you are in the Bay. Getting bipped is a thing out there where people just break into your car for any reason. Yeah, that's like, something I also study is like geographies of crime. So like, why is gun violence such more of a thing in Chicago, and then like carjackings are more of a thing in the Bay? Like, what about these different places like precipitates these different types of what sociologists would call like deviance?
Do you know the answer to that?
No. Figuring it out.
Okay.
Yeah, reading as much as I can.
I feel like, I mean, we even came from Chicago, and then like gun violence here in New York, knock on wood, is not the way it is in Chicago. And it's like, what are the gun laws? Like stuff like that might influence it. Like, I guess like we don't really know, but it's definitely interesting, like understand how that kind of plays out.
And with the implications it has for different communities in these cities.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so as you kind of are talking about your application and everything, what made you want to leave corporate America and go back to school?
Yeah, great question, and something I think about all the time because the money in Silicon Valley is great, but I think like the intellectual, spiritual fulfillment of reading and studying and understanding something that I'm interested in is just unmatched. And I knew when I was, the soul-sucking nature, right, of corporate America. I think we can all attest to it, no matter how cool your job is, actually. I would go so far as to say, is real. And I mean, there's also a very soul-sucking nature of academia. Like, let's not get it twisted. And it's very bureaucratic and and all the things, but I knew I wanted to just like wake up and like I had so many things I was interested in,
Yeah.
and I wanted to take the time and a career that would allow me to explore those things.
Yeah.
So at the time, I was thinking about either journalism or a PhD in like a social science or humanities, like a history or sociology or something like that. And quit my job because I knew I just didn't really enjoy it. That being said, I wasn't on the coolest team or the coolest product when I was in the Bay. And I went on some more kind of like self-discovery journey stuff. I like was a contributing writer for a creative magazine for like a summer. I did like a research apprenticeship for a few months. I was doing freelance photography at the time, just kind of like throwing paint at the wall,
Right.
seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
And I found myself really interested in the research stuff and like understanding society, and patterns in society and patterns in human nature, and spoke to enough people, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll get a PhD in this stuff and see what that looks like.
I feel like you're very much someone who kind of like moves more in silence and is like much more observing.
Yeah.
And like you have a really good understanding of the world, but like it's more like because you're watching and learning, and like I feel like that makes sense for what you're doing, right? Is like having that curiosity and deep like ability to like deeply understand and process and question everything is really interesting.
Yeah, I minored in philosophy in
Okay.
college. And I think like, yeah, I mean, too much of anything can be detrimental, right? I think like, especially after the pandemic and as we get older and how everything's increasingly online, we can analyze everything. There's
Right.
data on everything. There's eyes on everything.
Mhm.
Right? So it's a balance for sure. that
Yeah.
I'm definitely trying to strike, and I think society at large is trying to strike.
Let's now talk about moving to New York. You know, you get into Columbia to study sociology. What is sociology?
Great question, Taylor. I'm so glad you asked. No, literally, like, no one knows. Yeah, and even people, sociologists, question it. They say it's a bit of a garbage can discipline because it's like, you can study everything from, like, crime and policing to, like, one of my friends in the program is studying, his dissertation is on, like, vintage watch markets. And like how vintage watches gain value by those in power and therefore are priced according to like social accreditation.
It's kind of like art.
Accreditation. Yeah, exactly.
Kind of like art or fashion.
So like sociology is like you can study anything that has to do with like the human condition or the human experience. So that includes when I explain it to people, psychology is more about the individual. It's more about like, you know, if I insult you, what are like the chemicals in how does your brain respond, and then therefore your actions respond to how your brain's responding. Like literally like wires hooked up to, you know, psychologists.
Right.
Like psychological studies. Sociology is more about patterns in society.
Okay.
So,
it's like
Society.
sociology,
Yeah.
society-ology.
Exactly. Societyology. No, literally. Societyology.
You started using that.
Honestly, people would understand it more or better. So yeah, I knew I was interested in like macro patterns. What can we understand about like racial inequality more broadly, and like how it impacts entire communities and groups of people, as opposed to like if you experience a racist occurrence at work, how does that affect you personally?
Right.
That's like a psychologist's.
Right.
I mean, this is kind of dumbing it down a little bit, but I think that's like kind of
that's helpful.
way
Yeah.
to think about the two.
Do you think that like you were interested in that kind of because of your experience growing up and like seeing all those different spaces?
Yeah, it goes back to kind of how we started the conversation. I think I was always asking why, like why is this dude's house so big, and why do I live in a rinky-dink apartment on the other side of town? And like, there's so many answers to that question, but like, there's so many answers to that question, obviously. But when you discover the patterns,
right?
Like that, there's a lot of what seem to be like a homogenous group of people that have big homes. There's a lot of what seem to be relatively homogenous group of people that have small homes or use drugs more or are quote unquote more violent and more deviant, and you notice that pattern, you start to ask why.
Right.
You notice the pattern.
Right.
And then you start to read history and understand history of segregation, history of slavery, like all the things that lead to potential answers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think knowing so many different types of people, knowing so many different life paths and life stories, I was just always wondering why and how. And also, I think part of it was selfish in that I was trying to be successful myself.
Right.
You know, I was trying to break patterns myself.
Right.
So I think that curiosity also motivated.
Well, now you might even be able to break patterns for groups of people by knowing this information too.
That's the hope.
Yeah. So, tell me more about like what what's the requirement, or like what is it like getting a PhD? Not many of us will ever experience this, so.
You are, yeah, definitely avoid it if you can. Yeah, it's not. I'm at the point in the program where I'm like halfway, so I'm like too far in to go back.
It's how many years? 4?
It's 5 to 6 years.
Okay.
And I just wrapped up my 3rd year.
That's crazy.
It's twice as long as law school.
Okay.
So I'm at the point in the program where I'm too far in to like go back, but I'm also so far from finishing. So
Right.
I'm just like, I'm chilling. You know, I'm chilling. Everything's fine. Getting a PhD is, I think, no matter the discipline, it is the first few years are the masters in that discipline. So if you're doing a PhD in biology, you take 2 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know anybody that's doing a PhD in biology. I don't think, but at least for sociology, I'll speak to sociology and the social sciences and the humanities. You spend the first 2 or 3 years taking courses and getting your master's in sociology or history or whatever. Then you basically have to knock out, depending on the school, a few requirements to prove that you're ready to be an expert in this thing. So you take the classes, you pass the classes, and then you have to like sometimes do like an oral examination where you basically get drilled by other academics on your knowledge.
Okay.
Columbia has a written examination called a field statement where I have to write like a 40-page paper on everything I'm interested in and how I plan to build on that knowledge.
Have you done that yet?
No.
Is that soon?
It's this fall.
Oh.
It's this fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have to do it like all in one sitting, or it's like?
No, it's like
you
it's
submit
like
it as a.
in December.
Okay, cool.
Thing, yeah, but you basically go to your advisor and you say, "What do I have to know to prove to you that I'm ready to be?"
How do they prevent ChatGPT?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I have no idea. I don't think they're prepared for that. Yeah.
Write me a paper.
Yeah, exactly. Building on these sociologists. But yeah, then they basically, your advisors give you like a book list of like books you have to read.
Okay. Is there a book specifically that has kind of talked a lot about what you are studying specifically and like where you feel like you've gotten a lot of of your learning information from that?
Or an inspiration.
Yeah. Or like, one that like really made you curious.
For sure. I think there's levels to it, right? There's like super academic books, then there's more like Evicted by Matthew Desmond is a super popular book.
Okay.
Where Matthew Desmond is a sociologist at Princeton, formerly at Harvard, but before that he was at Wisconsin, Madison, and he went and lived in a trailer park with other trailer park residents in Milwaukee, and wrote a book about his experience and about how people not only get evicted. His whole thing in the book is like, you can get evicted and lose your job, but also you can lose your job and then get evicted. So it's this vicious cycle of like joblessness and homelessness.
Right. It's like once one thing falls, it makes you more susceptible for all the other things.
Exactly. And so that's more of a trade book. He won like the MacArthur Genius Award for that. I think it was like New York Times bestseller, New Yorker book list, all that stuff. That's a good example of a book that is sociology, but a little bit more digestible and a lot better at storytelling. There's also this book by Kianga Yamata Taylor, who's a historian at Princeton, and she has this book called Race for Profit, and it basically talks about predatory mortgage and mortgage brokers and predatory real estate brokers, preying, quite literally preying on financially unstable, predominantly Black Americans, knowing that they can charge them jacked up interest rates and put them in substandard housing and put them in places no one wants to be, and ultimately profit off of poverty.
Right.
And desperation.
Right.
And that's messed up.
Right.
I think we can agree that if someone's in a crazy position, and that's capitalism for you.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
go down that like rabbit hole, but like that is.
I think we're seeing a lot of this happening like in real time right now. It's like becoming more obvious to more people that maybe didn't realize it as much until the last few years.
Yeah, and that's why you have the Zorons of the world becoming mayor-elect,
right?
Because people are opening their eyes to like how predatory the system is that we live
right.
in. And that book was very inspiring because it really broke down like the history of like who was involved at what time in what cities, and what communities were most impacted by like predatory mortgage lending.
Okay, cool. Let's dive in a little bit more specifically to what you're studying. Your current research project is using big data to measure the negative effect of policing. Explain this to me, put it in a better terminology, and tell me what you're trying to learn and what you have learned so far.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned for the PhD, you take courses and then you have a range of things that you have to do to prove that you're ready to get get the dissertation. Bless you, Emery. Bless you, cameraman. And one of those requirements is like a research paper. So I'm working on my like qualifying research project. It's like my master's thesis.
Okay.
There's a bunch of different names for it. When I say I'm using big data, really that just means that there's so much data these days. You hear about big data, machine learning, AI, these like buzzwords that are thrown out. All that means is that you can have, a 4 terabyte hard drive that's just full of data on policing, on human mobility, like where people go in the city, and when they go to different places in the city. Like I'm using cell phone mobility data right now. Where
are you acquiring some of that?
Some of it's private, some of it's public.
Okay.
Me and my research team and I are all working with private data.
Okay.
There's these things called data brokers where they work with Verizon, AT&T, etc. And basically pay Verizon, AT&T, etc. for aggregated data on their users.
Okay.
Because you have location services on your phone, right? So your phone knows where you sleep at night, where you spend your days, where you spend like 2 hours. You say you spend 2 hours in the middle of the day next to an equinox. Your phone can assume you're exercising.
Right.
So there's all this data that a lot of companies want to use for research purposes, but maybe also to market a new yoga mat to you on your way home from the gym. So there's just so much data these days, and it's used by good people, bad people. I'd like to think I'm one of the good people.
So let's say you have cell phone data. What can you learn then from that in relation to this topic?
Yeah. So what I'm interested in is like broadly social connectedness and social cohesion, which it's speaking to a lot of that in Blacklist as well, but it's speaking to a lot of the issues that arose out of the pandemic: loneliness, isolation, mental health, all that stuff. And there was a lot of research that came out in response to the pandemic or motivated by the pandemic, trying to understand the importance of community, the importance of social connectedness, the importance of living close to family and friends versus being isolated in the boonies. And I can measure, like using this mobility data, I can understand, or one can understand, how socially integrated individuals are, how much time they're spending at home versus how much time they're spending in a coffee shop or at their gym or wherever. So broadly, that's what I've been using that data for. And there's also literature that points at like the effect of policing and aggressive policing on education outcomes for minority youth or antisocial behavior. If you live in a neighborhood where the police are scary and abusive, you're likely to go to school and come straight home.
Right.
You don't want to be at the park. You don't want to be at the arcade. And the relationship between aggressive policing precipitating antisocial behavior, and what we know as the importance of social behavior and social connectedness and cohesion. By understanding how police might cause people to be antisocial or like less socially connected, we can infer that over and aggressive policing. Let me know if I'm making sense because I'm kind
No,
of like
you
a
are, you
rabbit
are.
hole at this point. But we can infer the effect of over and aggressive policing on mental and social well-being.
So how do you know where it is overly aggressive policing?
I have, I mean, decades worth of data, but I'm focusing on 2019 and 2024.
Okay.
NYPD data on stop, question, and frisk, which is rolled out by Mayor Adams, or I don't, but it's like been a thing under Mayor Adams. Stop, question, and frisk, arrest, use of force, and police killings.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's all like localized,
Yeah.
geocoded. So basically, I'm looking at different neighborhoods and I'm seeing patterns and surges in like aggressive police activity, and then I'm seeing how that relates to like how integrated and socially connected the neighborhood is.
Yeah. Do you have any specific neighborhoods that you've like noticed that people would like be able to like, if you like told us that neighborhood, you'd be like, oh yeah, I've seen that, or is that like too specific?
No, it's not too specific. It's just it's relatively anonymized at this point
Yeah.
because of the data. Like I don't have the name of the neighborhood, but I could like, you know, if I opened up my software, I could point at a map.
Okay.
Point on a map like where it is, and then like cross-reference it with Google Maps and be like, oh, that looks like Bronzeville.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I mean, you might also have to be careful about sharing all that.
Yeah. It's a work in progress, but that's the weeds of my research, which honestly I don't talk about that often. But
I think it's really interesting.
thanks.
Okay, so to go off of all of that information, how do we solve for these issues, right? Like you're doing research on finding the patterns, but are there solves to it that I guess so you guys and like society can implement, but then also like is there stuff that individuals can do in their day-to-day lives?
Yeah, that's a great question. And people often pose the question or pose the reality to sociologists that we do a lot of pointing out problems, but what are we doing? What conversations are we starting to actually solve them? And obviously, you have to point out a problem before you can even start a conversation around solving it. But yeah, there are programs, there are sociology programs at other schools, for instance, that will often brand it as a sociology and social policy program.
Okay.
So you go in doing the type of research I'm doing to understand a problem, but then you also have a partnership with the policy school or the law school to directly translate that new knowledge into policy proposals.
Okay.
So that's one way, you know, whether it's police reform or police abolition, prison reform or prison abolition, based on the research that's been done. That's kind of like the translation into like broader impacts in society. And I think, you know, this is gonna sound very political, but you know, as individuals, awareness is key, self-education is key, voting is key. You know, so simple, but also surprisingly difficult.
Well, and probably like voting on not just the president, right?
Yeah,
like I
right.
think a lot of people, including myself, have not always been the best about voting for the more local things, and that's what's
Same.
going to impact your local police and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like how much funding is going towards militarizing the police versus how much funding is going towards like social services and mental health reprieve.
Right.
For like, you know, our therapists.
Right.
For you know, quote unquote. I mean, I really hate this wording, but quote unquote troubled youth.
Right.
And that's the idea behind abolition, which I'll talk about briefly, just as so relevant. When you hear or anyone hears police abolition, prison abolition, it's not, the idea is not just getting rid of police and then everyone runs free.
Right.
It's this idea of, I mean, we've also heard of defunding the police, and it's very related to abolition. It's maybe we spend not millions of dollars on AK-47s for barely trained police officers. we actually spend millions of dollars on therapy, food, um, like just like social support, social and economic support. There's a lot of conversation around like universal basic income these days, for instance, because it has been proven that something as simple as like a foundation of economic foundation can help people be better parents, can help people be better siblings, daughters, sons, students, and stuff like that. So
Well, and then hopefully they don't have to go towards desperation
exactly.
in the cases that's when the police is needed, right? Like,
It's this vicious cycle.
right. So it's like solving some of those other things, hopefully to not even have to have that
To
conversation.
not even have, ideally we live in a world where we don't even need police. Because
Right.
everyone feels that supported.
Right. Probably never going to happen, but
Yeah, we'll see. We can dream.
have you covered any other topics besides that stuff in your studies?
Yeah, naturally, with my background in Silicon Valley, I'm also interested in like AI and UX design and design in general. The way in which like the design of cities, the design of systems can like promote certain types of behaviors. I also worked for a few months when I first got to New York at Instagram, at Meta. And some of the cooler teams that I remember working with at Instagram were like Metaverse Equity, which was like, there's this guy who was a product manager, I forget his name, but he was focused on making sure like, the metaverse, like Oculus, I don't even remember, but like, yeah, virtual reality basically. Like everything operating in the metaverse was like appropriate, first of all, but also not reproducing the same inequalities that we see in the real world.
I think about that a lot with AI, and I have a friend who she was working on an AI startup and like working to get investors in the space, and getting investors in general is predominantly male, but like the AI space is a very specific type of person who like got in early and was even interested in like learning that skill and like all of that. And so my thing is like we aren't going to be able to control if AI happens like it's happening, but what we can still do is like impact it to make sure it's for good, not just for like building the fastest, smartest, best product that like ultimately doesn't help people, right? And like that's where I think a lot of people in design could like focus their energy, because I think like the human-centered piece, right, is like, are we designing this for the betterment of people or just like to get ahead of the system?
Maximize our profits.
Right.
And it's, zoom out, right? Like it's the same thing I was talking about with housing. Like housing should be this thing that we're hoping everyone can have.
Right.
But that book I was talking about, Race for Profit by Keeanga Taylor, was talking about how the energy shifted in the housing industry to be predatory as opposed to supportive. And like the same thing could be with AI, right? AI has the potential to like do a lot when it comes to like, I mean, people using AI for mental health and stuff like that. But what would it look like for developing AI to not be predatory, but to actually be focused on like the betterment of society?
Right.
You're obviously extremely intelligent, and we're in this world right now where attention deficit is something that a lot of people are experiencing, just given we're all addicted to our phones, we're all addicted to screens. You're in a field where you do a lot of reading, and a lot of your job is just to get educated on different topics. How do you balance keeping attention on learning when it comes to a world that we're constantly on our screens?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's as hard for me, frankly, as it is for everyone. It's a good question because, this is also between TV, New York distractions generally, and then like social media. That I think is the difference between people that take 8 or 9 years to then be PhD versus those that can take that career. They didn't buy, because it's really just how fast can you do your research and how fast can you write paper. That determines, and how quick you can take your classes and all that kind of stuff. How disciplined are you? obviously some topics are more difficult than others as well. You might have an advisor who never approves anything, so you're constantly like rewriting stuff. So there's all these different factors. But I mean, the social media aspect is something that I definitely battle with as well, especially because I'm on social media also as a DJ. But I have to delete Instagram off my phone every single day. Yeah,
You do it every day?
every day.
I've been doing it every day.
I do it every day, and I still end up on browser checking my DMs or whatever. But like this, like, and I'm so scared I'm missing something, right? Again, part of my work is on Instagram, but deleting it, I struggle with it, to be honest. I try to leave my phone in the other room, but I do think I am grateful for the PhD to answer your question, because it has forced me to maintain some level of like focus control. I'd be able to focus on something for an hour at a time. I think they're actually kind of a rare skill these days.
Well,
Outside of
I love an AI tangent.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Outside of sociology and all of the heavy stuff, and also trying to live in New York City while getting a PhD, expensive. You've leaned into other passions to make some money,
I have.
and also have a big impact on New York City and your community. And that in particular has been being a DJ. Tell us about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I go to grad school and they pay us just barely enough to survive in New York. And I knew not only based on my interests, but just living in New York City, that I would want to have a side hustle of some sort. I thought about, yeah, just like any sort of like personal training or like getting DJ or like random like odd jobs. Maybe work at a coffee shop, learn how to make really good cortados or something like that.
He does the heart and the foam.
Yeah, exactly. Lover boy energy, Cut that part out, please. Yeah, so in college, I was the guy with the aux at the party. And like always. And then high school and college. And then when I got to the Bay, I started working on tech. I just told myself I would learn how to like DJ for real. So I saved up a couple $100, which was expensive at the time. But now that I'm working with like real DJ equipment, it's like so cheap. And we can cut this off, but I literally just spent 2.5 on a new DJ.
Ugh. But you'll pay it off.
I'll make it back. It's like it's like a camera. It's like you spend a lot to make a lot.
You're right. Yeah, it is like a camera. Thank you for saying that, because I'm just like, bro, that is just so expensive. But anyways, I bought my first DJ deck in the Bay. Spent like a month and two on YouTube with like my little Bose speaker connected to my laptop, just like trying to make a transition not sound clunky. Eventually figured it out, and I remember I like called all my roommates to the living room to show them that I had learned how to do it.
That's so cute.
They're nice, but I'm pleased about that. And then I started DJing like work happy hours. And then I eventually did like a friend's barbecue in his backyard. And then I eventually did like a random bar in SF that was down the street. Shout out El Rio in the Mission. And then the pandemic happened. So I really became like a bedroom / Instagram DJ. And I was just like DJ and putting the mixes on SoundCloud and like putting some stuff on Instagram and just doing it for the fun of it. For real. And then when I moved to New York for grad school / work / side passions or whatever, this city just like, if you have an idea, this is just like the city to be in. And I knew when I moved here that there would just be, it's funny, people are scared to move here like as a DJ or as a photographer, but there's just so many opportunities for these things. So there's thousands of DJs in New York, but there's also thousands of parties in New York. There's thousands of happy hours every day. There's thousands of whatever. So I just started reaching out to different people like in nightlife and connected with my co-founder, my now co-founder. And we just decided we were going to throw some parties, and those parties turned into like a real community of people that really enjoyed like not going out to the club, but really just like listening to good music with their friends. And it evolved into Blacklist NYC. And now we're known for, we do everything from like a wine night with a sommelier on site to we did like a fitness and meditation event. We did like a Black Innovators panel. And then we also throw like day parties and night parties. So we just kind of like run our Issa Rae and Insecure, kind of just like throwing events for and by Black folks a year.
Well, and you have like a huge following. You get people to show up like every time. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that speaks to the need for it, right?
Right.
The need for, especially people moving here, but also people that have been here for a while. New York, as we know, is this massive city, but it can be extremely lonely. And I think just like we were surprised even at like the response and like people just wanting to. We did a no phones event, and we were like, are people really not going to be on their phones? And people showed up, and no one was on their phone. Like I saw some girl that showed up alone go up to the bar, order a drink, and start chopping it up with like the group of girls next to her. She was like, hey, I'm blah, blah, yeah, pulled up solo. And it was like, I saw it while I was DJing. I was like, dang, this is like actually happening. Yeah.
Do people like, are you like a mini celebrity for people with Blacklist?
I don't think so.
It's DJ Taylor.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't.
It might happen at some point.
I wouldn't want that. I mean, I think like people that go to Blacklist know me as, and me and my co-founder are trying to put ourselves out there a little bit more, faces to the network. So I'll notice people notice me or whatever, but it's never, it's a community. You know, it's all of us that really made Blacklist what it is. Not just
When people who keep showing up and putting it on.
tell their friends, invite their friends, post it to their story. Like, it's really like a community-based effort. It's something that
Shout out all of you.
Shout out Blacklist. Okay,
what is your DJ style? And how do you determine like what you're going to play each set?
Yeah, great question. You know, I grew up in Chicago. I could rave about Chicago and people's music taste in Chicago. You know, shout out Emery Barnes, shout out Taylor Naughton, shout out Tim Fields, shout out 1981 Tokyo, like other Chicago DJs and producers. But the cool thing about Chicago is like we have a lot of West Coast influence, a lot of East Coast influence, a lot of South influence, because Chicago is the Midwest, right? You have a lot of people that migrate there from Atlanta, from LA, from New York. People are trying to get out of New York. We still want a big city. So I'm grateful to have grown up on like Outkast, Dre and Snoop, but also Mobb Deep and Tribe Called Quest. So my music style has always been like not even trying to sound like whatever, but like pretty expansive. I have a lot of African friends from college who put me onto music from Nigeria, Jamaica, Liberia, Johannesburg, you know. So I think my music style is just very much rooted in the Black diaspora. Dance hall, soca. The only thing I won't play, and this might not even be true, is like some country.
Okay.
You know, maybe I'll throw it in there, some Darius Rucker. You know what I'm saying?
I feel you.
You know what I'm saying?
That's how I feel about country, but like maybe once in a while.
It hits.
Yeah.
You know, there's no discrimination here when it comes to good music.
If you did like a Blacklist barn dance kind of situation,
And bringing cowboy boots.
that could be kind of a vibe.
Honestly, it would be. What month could that be? Like, I feel like it'd have to be like a theme of like, or if we do a Blacklist Nashville.
Oh, that could be sick.
Blacklist Austin.
Oh, keep an eye out. This is a new idea.
Venues in Austin, hit me up.
Okay, as a DJ, you're like behind the table and like DJing, but you're like seeing everything. What is the craziest things you've like witnessed that maybe people didn't realize that you saw?
Oh no.
Or people knew that you saw?
Let's see. I mean, you know, the early days of Blacklist when it was like a backyard party, you know, forgot what happened. Someone was like really, really sick in the bathroom and like stumbling in and out of the bathroom, wouldn't like go throw up and then come back to the dance floor. But that was crazy. Shout out to whoever that was though. She had a good time.
Probably a lot of makeouts.
Yeah, you know, nothing crazy. I will say, I think what separates Blacklist and me as a DJ, frankly, is like me and my co-founder always talk about how it's less dark. It's like I love Future, but I don't like play that much Future. For instance, I don't play as much trap music. it's a lot of like R&B and throwbacks and like sing-alongs. It's like I'll play some music you can dance with someone to, but also like I play a lot of music where you just want to grab your best friend and like sing your heart out. So I think there's a lot less like crashing out at Blacklist. A lot less crashing out at Blacklist than, you know. Shout out the other New York parties and stuff because they're also fun and I attend them and I know the organizers and stuff like that. But I think Blacklist is what separates us. I think a little bit is we're a little bit more wholesome.
Yeah. It's like more grown.
Come meet somebody, have a glass of wine, maybe dance with them, but like it's not. You're not yelling in someone's ear.
Or at them.
You like can't barely see them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there's like strobes everywhere. It's like it's pretty well lit. Like the parties are like you can see people in front of you. So, yeah.
I like it.
So nothing. To answer your question, nothing like super crazy. Nothing super crazy.
What has been the most surprising thing along the journey of building Blacklist?
Ooh. I think the whole thing. To be honest, I think like, I think it happened exactly. I'll ask my co-founder this, but I'll speak for myself. Like, I think the coolest thing, I guess speaking more philosophically here, like the coolest things come about naturally and surprisingly.
Yeah.
I think we literally just started out saying like, I want to play some good music, and my co-founders, he has a background in real estate and like creating spaces and like geography and venues and stuff like that a little bit. We were just like we just want to throw events, and like we didn't really know where it was gonna go, and we had some TikToks go viral, and people, honestly, it was like the people kind of like telling us what they loved about our events and what they were looking for. So we just listened. We were like, okay, if you want community, we're gonna do stuff that like focuses on community, and then it just like snowballed. And that was all surprise, right? We didn't go into any of that with a plan. I sure didn't. I mean, of course, somewhat of a plan, but like it's been a beautiful, beautiful surprise to build this thing, for it to be successful, and for it to obviously like address a need that we could have had an intuition that existed, but ultimately it was just the people attending our events telling us the need about the need.
Have you found any intersections
Hey.
between have you found any intersections between what you're building and what you're learning? Just like yeah.
That's a great question, and something I need to think about a lot more. Because everyone's like, I always talk about them separately.
Right.
But they're like, clearly it's like you and your interests, so like why don't you identify the overlaps?
There could even be a book that you like write about what you've learned and like the dynamics of it.
One of the coolest, quick, nerdy, whatever tangent, literally one of the coolest sociologists of all time was this dude, Howie Becker. He did his PhD at University of Chicago, and he was a jazz musician. And he always said that he did sociology as like a side quest, and that he was a professional musician. His PhD was just like something he was doing on the side, like for fun. But he became famous for writing this paper called Becoming a Marijuana User, where he basically would just like jot down notes basically at like the after parties after jazz shows about people smoking weed for the first time. And the process of becoming a weed smoker, someone has to, first of all, you have to like see it and see people smoke it. Someone has to teach you how to smoke it. Someone has to teach you how to inhale it. Someone has to teach you how to hold it, right? I mean, for those of you who have smoked weed before, you might remember like holding it in for the first time, because you like gotta make sure the smoke gets into your lungs, right? But yeah, he wrote, I forgot how I got here, but Howie Becker, anyways, he was a sociologist and a jazz musician and figured out a way to fuse the two.
Yeah.
And I think like clearly some underlying topics for me are like community, culture, inequality, and belonging.
Yeah.
Across both Blacklist and my program. So.
Well, Blacklist is kind of like an experiment, right? And like you're getting exposure to something that like some people might wish they could study but don't have access to, that you kind of have access to because you created it.
Yeah, exactly.
And like you're experimenting because you'll figure out what works and what doesn't and stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
It is, and I need to sit down and think about it a bit more, because it is unique I'm in a unique position to utilize like something I'm building to understand something I'm interested in.
Okay, last more serious question, then we'll do more fun ones.
Sure.
What advice would you have for anyone looking to be a DJ or build a community?
Wow. I've gotten asked this before, and I mean, I think like zooming out, broader advice is just like don't fake the funk. Like I just don't think anyone can do anything successfully that they don't actually want to do. I think some people want to be DJs because they think DJing is cool, not because they actually love music.
Okay.
And like, I've been there. I've tried to do things. One of my homies is a really good whittler. He'll take a block of wood and make like an action figure out of it.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's sick. I wish I could do that. But I just don't like wood like that.
Yeah, you have to like really commit to that.
He like loves, like he's a woodworker. Like he's built furniture and he's really good at whittling. Like he does it while he's watching a show. He does it like on road trips. Like he loves whittling. And I was like mad at myself for like not like being able to like, you know, I like to learn things or whatever. And I was mad at myself for not being able to, not being able to learn how to do that. But like, you can't fake the funk. If I just don't want to sit there with splinters on my thumbs all day.
Right. It takes like obsessing to get to that level of quality.
Yeah, and I think again, this is yet again a bit more like philosophical or whatever. But I think like anyone that wants to get into something, like you first have to identify like whether or not you truly love that thing.
Yeah.
And then if you do, it won't feel like work to get into it and to get good at it because it's just like what you want to spend your time doing.
Right.
So for me, like getting into DJing wasn't even, to be honest, wasn't even this thing that I was like trying to be, wasn't even trying to be. I just thought it was really cool to like play music and make it sound good. And listen to the music that I wanted to listen to. And eventually I got like good enough at it, I guess, to spin for like hundreds of people at a time.
I really like that. I feel like that's really good career advice in general.
And that's why I also do the PhD, because I knew that if I spent 40 plus hours doing something I didn't actually care about, that I wouldn't be good at it.
Right.
And like I want to be good at whatever I'm spending 40 hours a week doing.
Right. 100%. Okay. Some more lighthearted questions.
Yeah.
You gave us a book related to sociology, but any other books or podcasts to put people on to?
Yeah. I actually don't listen to that many podcasts, and funny enough, talking about attention deficit, I don't know what it is. I just get distracted when I listen to podcasts. I think I look around and I'll like fixate on like the art on your wall. Or,
You need more of like the visual aspect.
I need something to like actually like lock my attention down. With that being said, I like podcasts. I listen to like NPR's Up First for like my daily news, and I love what's that freaking show called? I'm not gonna remember it, but like some funnier podcasts. Like I even listened to also forgetting his name. Dang, if it comes back to me, I'll mention this too. But like funny current events, you know, Still Processing by the New York Times is a really good like culture podcast. That's like equally parts funny and intellectual. But as far as books, you know, Go Tell It in the Rain by Hanif Abdurraqib. He's a trained poet, but a writer for the New Yorker, and he writes books based on things that he loves. So he wrote this book dedicated to A Tribe Called Quest, and it's like really beautiful, and not that long.
Okay.
What else am I reading? You know, Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates changed my life. The autobiography of Malcolm X absolutely changed my life. I think that's actually something everyone should read. It's like, it sounds radical, you know, because Malcolm X, but it's actually just an incredible autobiography, or biography, written by Alex Haley. But
It's really impressive that you remember the authors' names.
yeah, I mean, if you like the book, you know.
Yeah, that's true. I don't remember things like that. Okay, favorite song currently?
Favorite song currently? I actually want to look at my phone for this one because I discovered this artist recently. It's really good. It's really good.
I believe you.
But it's called Solange
Okay.
by Celine Desberg.
Okay.
everyone go listen to Solange by Celine Desberg. There's no words. It's just like beautiful. I think she's a producer who also plays the harp.
Oh.
So like in the song, I think it's the harp that you hear.
Okay.
It's just like addicting and euphoric.
Okay.
I'm listening to it on repeat.
We'll put on it after this.
Yeah.
Favorite thing to do outside of school and DJing?
Sit on my couch.
Taurus.
For sure. Taurus coded for sure. Sit on my couch or sit at the park or eat food. Taurus,
Okay,
Taurus.
literally all of the things.
Yeah, I've been cooking a lot more, which has been good. And then I've been cooking and enjoying what I cook.
Yeah.
Which has been like, I've been enjoying that. Yeah.
That's always fun. It's creative. Okay, best Filipino restaurant in New York.
I haven't had that much actually, cause I'm trying to go to Woodside, which is like where Little Manila is in Queens, and that's where all the best Filipino food is. But the best food I've had so far is this place called Nax.
Okay.
Or Knox, Naks. Y'all should go actually. I think it's around. It's in like East Village, East Side. But it's pretty like, I don't know what the word, like fancy, high level.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if it's Michelin star, but it's like, you know, kind of that kind of a vibe. But Filipino food, delicious.
Okay,
Delicious.
thank you.
Yeah.
We haven't had too many in New York, so that's helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, last question.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to your 10-year-old self?
Great question. I'm good, right? No, that's hard. I mean, I'm grateful that I believe my life, for better or worse, trials and tribulations, played out in a way that I'm very proud of.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you know, I've gotten a lot of trouble and stuff when I was 12, 13, 14. And then again at like 17, 18, 19. But I don't
And then again at like 20,
and
30,
then,
21, 22.
And then again at 27, 28, 29. But I don't think I would change any of that.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. You know, for instance, I got caught engaging in recreational activity when I was 14. But that experience made, as much as it almost tore me and my mom apart, made us closer than ever thereafter.
Right.
You know, so it's like, I don't think I would tell my like 10-year-old self to like behave better, for instance, because I think it like ultimately worked out. But maybe I would reiterate to my 10-year-old self to like listen to your intuition.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like, and I'm still trying to figure that out, right? I mean, there's so many outside voices and there's so many inside voices, and ultimately like, you kind of just gotta follow your gut with a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the earlier you learn that, the earlier you learn to trust yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The earlier you learn that, the earlier you learn to trust yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also like, unfortunately, a rare skill these days.
Mm-hmm.
To like trust yourself, trust your intuition, know which voices in your head to listen to and which ones not to. You know,
Mm-hmm.
And like the earlier you can figure that out, the more self-aware you'll be, and then hopefully the more just like grounded and successful you'll be.
I love it. Okay, any last comments for your audience? Anything I missed that you want to hit?
Shout out the Barnes Naughton family.
Oh.
And yeah, this has been incredible. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ty.